How's everybody doing this morning? Hey, I had such a wonderful time that I'm losing my voice. And Susie can barely stand. That's...
All right, we have fun. We just want to have fun.
So today is what we call our state of project search, and it's the time that we go over our statistics, the data that you've all put into the computer. We talk about what went well, what could go better. When we talk to each other and refer to this talk, we call it Project Search, the good, the bad, the ugly. And it really is, for us, about continuous improvement, because the truth is that when we have 70% employment or something near to that, that sounds great. And I think we think 70% and we slap each other on the back, but that still means we're failing the 30%. And so our goal is just always to push and be better. And so that's what this morning's talk is about. It's what can we do to improve? How can we have a spirit of continuous improvement by looking at where we've been and the changes that are going to come? I'm going to start off, and then Susie will do the middle portion, and then I'll finish. Okay, so we're going to kick off by going over our program outcome data. You ready?
Yep.
Do you want to explain?
Sure. I know sometimes I think people think we put the wrong date up here, that we should be looking at the class of 23. Keep in mind that we're always 9 months behind, which means we give you an extra 9 months once your program year is over to look for that best job that meets your students' strengths, needs, preferences, and abilities. So starting in February of the year after, that's when we start asking you for data on the class before. So everything that you see this morning in terms of the data is based on the class of 22.
These are our employment outcomes for the class of 2021-2022. They're actually your employment outcomes. We had 73% of all Project Search young people were employed or found employment at the end of 2022. That's as high as we've ever been. They made $13.23 per hour on average, and they worked an average of 24.79 hours per week. Now, the 73% employed is all jobs. And as you know, we have a competitive integrated definition that we want folks to be working at least 16 hours a week. So the number for 16 hours a week is less. And you'll see here in the right-hand column, we had 3,855 young people enrolled in the program in 2021 school year. 3,551 finished, giving us a completion rate of 92%. One of the things Susie and I talk about and that we'd love to change, we think we need to work on that, is that our completion rate, we're losing on average 8% of the folks who start the program each year. That's pretty high. And we'd love to look at why are we losing them and what do we do to decrease that rate? What's causing that? Are we not selecting the right young people? Are we not keeping them involved enough over the summer? Are we losing touch and they're moving on to different opportunities? We don't know what it is, but we'd love to work on this and see it decrease next year. Of the completers, the percentage employed were 73.6%, and the number employed that met Project Search criteria was 67%. Even that number is the highest it's been in 5 years. So you really rocked it. I think what's interesting, and I can't use a pointy on these slides, so what I like about this employment outcome recovery slide is that you see that for most years, for the last 4 or 5 years, there's been an almost 10% gap, 10-point gap between the number employed and the number who actually met our criteria. Does that make sense? Like if we had 73, we were at 63. If we had 79, we were at 69. And we've been pretty close to 10% all along. This year, we narrowed that gap for the first time. And the gap between the number employed and the number employed working 16 hours actually fell to about 7%. So we're expanding the number of hours. We're growing the number of hours that the young people are working, which we love to see, so thank you so much. The bad news, and Susie and I always talk about this. You know, I think we got to bed about 1 o'clock last night and we were on such a high. And then, you know, we get up this morning and she's like, who's gonna give that slide? Because we don't want to do it. I mean, you're doing such a great job, and we're so proud of every single person who's here, and we're proud to be associated with every one of you, and every one of these jobs that we get is changing the life of a person and their family, and that the ripple effect is huge, but there's some bad news. So, the good news of the bad news is that 99% of all of our sites entered their data. That's crazy. That is really good. However, do you know that 23 program sites found no jobs for any of their interns in the 2021-22 class? Or they failed to enter their data. I don't know which one is worse. Either if they didn't find any jobs, that's pretty bad. If they just forgot and didn't enter their data, that's really having a huge impact on everyone working so hard. So those 23 programs accounted for 107 interns. But even though 107 seems small and a total of 3,855, if we removed those 107 from the calculations, the total employment would have been 75.9%, with 69% employed in jobs that meet all requirements. Putting your data in is important to all of us. Project Search, we are a data-driven program. You can't measure how you're doing unless you put your information into the system. Now, my guess is that people from these 23 program sites are not here. So unfortunately, I feel like I'm berating all of you for the sins of others or something. I feel really bad. But if you know any of these folks, or you think you might,
We could tell them later.
could you just talk to them? We'll help them. We'll put their data in. They can call us if they don't know how. Perhaps it's as simple as they don't know how to use a system, or they lost their login and they're just embarrassed to ask. We don't care. We'll help them. It'd be really great if we could get those in. I will say the program sites with 0% were from 13 states and 3 countries, so it was pretty evenly spread. If you're one of these sites, please contact one of us and we'll help you. And all the rest of this is really good news.
And keep in mind, whether you're from one of these places or not, it's really important to get your whole program, staff, and your partners in the member portal, because then that holds you accountable. So then Erin can say to me, if I'm the instructor, hey, hasn't anybody gotten a job yet? And I might say, well, Molly got one, but I just haven't had time to put it in. And she can say, well, let's sit down and put it in. So ask, if you don't know, ask us, or ask somebody on your team, but make sure everybody gets in. Maybe start your steering committee each month with just a quick overview. Here's where we are. You don't have to go student by student, but you could say, hey, 3 so far have jobs. What do you guys think? And go from there. But it's again, we can't give out really great data unless all the data's there.
Is Mitch in the room, Mitch Morgan? I'm probably just embarrassing him. He's probably sleeping in. So yesterday, Mitch ran the business liaison meeting, and he had a full room, and it went really well. But afterward, we were talking because quite a few of the business liaisons didn't know how to get into the portal and had never had access. That's a perfect example. Make sure everybody on your team has access to the portal. It isn't top secret information. We want you to share it. If you've got a team member, please add it to the portal so they can access all the information.
And keep in mind, your student data is hidden. I mean, their names are hidden, so it's not like you're going to give away FERPA or anything like that. As you all know, as soon as you enter it, it comes up as a 5-digit number.
And if you don't know that, I'll just repeat it. Only 2 people can see students' identifying information. Only 2. And those 2 are listed in the portal, and right now I'm blanking on what that role is called. Intern Data Entry Coordinator. Only those people, there's 2 of them, can see the name. You can use initials, names, you can use another identifier, but the minute you put it in, the system converts it into a 5-digit code. Everybody else can only see the 5-digit code.
And none of us can see it either. We can't dip into your data and say, oh, well, that Mary Ellen didn't get a job.
No one on your team can see it except for those 2 people. No one. We don't know who those people are, so don't be afraid to enter it. All right, moving on. The good news is that almost 82% of all programs had at least 50% employment. That's better than it's ever been. 55% had 70% employment or higher. We read so many names last night. And 40% of all programs had 80% employment or higher. Program site growth. This year, we have 747 programs in 48 states, 10 countries. We serve 39,118 young people. The country that was added this year was Italy. We have a program in a little town called Pordenone in northern Italy, just about an hour from Venice. If you ever go to Venice, please let us know. They would love to have you stop by and see them. So which program sites were included in this data? And this is confusing. So we have 747 programs. However, the data comes from the number of programs that were live and active in the 2021 school year. So this data was taken from 555 program sites. This doesn't include sites that were on hiatus, programs that started in 2022-23 school year, or programs starting in 2023 or 2024. So that explains the difference in those between 555 and 747. COVID was terrible. It was terrible for all of us, and we're just now realizing how big of an impact it really had. We had, at the time, we had about 160 programs that went on hiatus. And even today, not all of them are back. We still have a substantial number of programs that are working to come back. Some of them have changed host businesses, and that's been very positive. Some of them are still waiting for their host business to let them back on site. Some of them had to close because they lost their funding for their teacher or the staff. But the encouraging news is that if you look at the orange line, those are all of our programs, including those who are still listed as being on hiatus. If you look at 2020-21, you'll see that the active sites was the lowest it's ever been. This year, you can see that that blue line has gone up, and that represents the programs that have come off of hiatus and are now active. You can see there's still a gap. So we still have a fair number of programs on hiatus. We'd love to hear from you. Is there anything we can do to help? Do you need to switch businesses? Can we talk to the business with you? How long do you think you'll be on hiatus? What can we do? But what we know is that COVID was not just simply a one-year recovery. It's probably going to be closer to a 3 to 5 year recovery. Class size, this is another big area where we're a little worried, if I'm honest. You can see that our class size in 2017-18 was 8. We know that many of our schools and our agencies need 8 to 10 to be sustainable. And in 2021-2022, the average class size in all of our programs is 6.9%, or 6.9 people. That's lower than we expected. We were surprised. So 7 people is the average class size. And that we are a little worried about that. Now, anecdotally, we've heard that class size is a bit bigger this year as more people remember what Project Search is about and we regain interest. But we'd love to know what's happening. You know, if you have time during this conference, grab somebody in green, talk about your enrollment, your recruitment. Let us know where you are. Distribution of class size. I love the 87, I love the 68, the 52. All the columns on the right side make my heart beat a little faster. On the left, when I see that 7 of our programs had 1 person and 19 of our programs had 2 people, I can't help but wonder how they are sustaining and how they are affording that. And here's the thing I would say to you, we don't want you to operate in the red. So if you call us and you say, we only have 2 for this year, is there something we could do? You know, we will look at a different way of operating. We have the ability, and we've talked about this with our team, to consider a modification to the program for a low recruitment year that can be less expensive. So please, if you have low enrollment, give us a call. Don't run a program that's going to hurt you financially. Hours and pay. This is exciting. The average hourly pay has gone from $10.85 in 2018-19 to $13.23 in 21-22. That's good. I forget who I was talking to yesterday. I was surprised. Their state average salary, or their state salary is still $7.25. And I thought everyone had changed, but they haven't. The other cool thing is that the average hours per week for the interns who were employed were 24.79. I love that. Much higher than the 16 that we require.
One of the things that's so exciting about that 24.79 is, as you all know, our students are in their internships 20 to 25 hours a week. So that means that we're really pushing, you are really pushing to have those interns work at least as much as they're in their internships. So kudos to you for working with employers to say, hey, they've already been doing this. Let them keep working this much.
Program site industry sector, no huge change here. 63% of all of our programs are in healthcare. Hospitals are just really good places for a program like this. You know, they're public facing, usually not for profit. They have
what about pediatric hospitals that might be
number 1.
Or 6.
That's true. There are a few others in the room too. I know I've talked to them and
Yeah, I don't know what they are, though.
they're feeling a little sheepish.
Sorry.
So, hospitals have that whole attitude of service, and they're just a good place. But not everybody with a disability wants to train or learn skills in a hospital.
Or you might not have a hospital in your
Yeah.
area.
It doesn't, so we love it when we have programs that aren't in hospitals. So number 2 is hospitality and resorts. Hotel and hospitality programs are some of our best programs. The young people get great training and they go on to get great jobs. The hospitality industry, however, was also the section that was most hurt by COVID. And so that is changing. Colleges and universities are 3rd. Other is 4th. And I just want to read this list because if you're looking for a host site, you're looking for a new host site, you should consider some of these. Insurance, retail. Last night we had a Walmart won an award. Banking and finance, museums and zoos, business support services, military installations. I think we have 5 or 6 programs on military installations. They're some of my favorites. I love them. They're really good for a class of young people if you have largely young men in your programs historically.
They're doing a session this week, too.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Realty, utilities. We have a program at a water company, a program at an electric company. Pharmaceutical, aviation. How many airport programs do we have now, Susie?
Atlanta's starting. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And Milwaukee.
So the big Delta hub is going to have a project search program. We're really
Do you fly Delta?
I do fly Delta.
Oh. How many million milers are you?
Social services. So assisted living, nursing home, retirement communities are fabulous. Government, it just gives you some idea of where we work well. Now this is the biggest change in all of the data. This one shocked us. In previous years, the number of young people who were hired by the host business has hovered around 30%. This year, it went up to 41%. 41% of our graduates were hired with the host business. That's huge. Top 21 job types. People say, why did you choose 21? Because it's what fit on the page, and we thought you might still be able to read it. No other reason. So if you focus on those top 4 or 5, the number 1 is environmental, domestic, housekeeping, custodial. The second is food prep. The third is stocking and materials management. The 4th is cashier, retail clerk. The 5th is food service. And the 7th is courtesy clerk. And Susie and I talk about this all the time. Everything on here makes sense to us because these are the jobs in our country. And these are, I'll show you in a minute, these are the this is the percentage that everybody works in our country. The only thing about this that upsets us is the courtesy clerk. The fact that someone would spend 9 months in a project search program learning fabulous skills, learning stamina, deciding what they want to do, and then go on to bag groceries is a little hard to believe. And sometimes I wonder, is that the job they really wanted? If it is, it's a different story. Did they have to learn skills in order to do it? If they did, that's totally acceptable. Or was it something where a grocery store came to us and said, send us the next 10 people you've got? Or was it something that we didn't know what to do with them and we wanted to get the number in, so we went and got the easiest we could find? And I do think we have to ask this question. This is a huge percentage of graduates, and If I were DVR, if I were a funder, I would wonder, could these people have gotten a job bagging without going to the expense of paying for a project search program? And I think sometimes in project search, we have to be a little bit more aware of the funding we're getting. We must be good stewards of that funding. We have to understand that VR and DD have to be accountable, and they have to get good outcomes. And they're allowed to question an outcome if it doesn't really fit. And even in my head, this doesn't fit. And so I'll leave that. Okay, now here's the interesting thing. We looked at the top 10 jobs for project search on the left, and the top 10 jobs for all citizens in the United States. And what you'll see is that they are largely the same. Environmental services, housekeeping, food prep, stocking, cashiers, janitors. And in fact, our percentages in those jobs are lower than they are for the general public. And many of our folks are working in businesses like hospitals and large businesses where they're getting benefits and they've got other, they may have a pension. So, and I see a bunch of you taking pictures. We'll give you this, this entire presentation that y'all can use.
We can put it on the app, and that way you'll have access to it.
Yep. Intern demographic information for the first time ever. The largest group of people we serve are young people with ASD autism. Now, part of that is that learning disabilities the second, intellectual disabilities the second, and learning disabilities third. And there's often confusion between those two. And England and Ireland and Wales and Scotland use a slightly different definition. So it still could be that intellectual disability as a broad group is first, but ASD and autism is growing. Intern demographic. This just gets worse every year, and I'm never sure what to think about it because I look around the room and most of us are women. But most of the people that we serve in Project Search, almost 2 to 1, are men. We serve young men with disabilities. So the percentage of males in Project Search in 2021-22 was 64%. Females were 35%. We had 4 people who identified as non-binary. Do I need to say anything?
Get those girls involved.
We got to do better. And even this, so not only are we really underserving women, but when we do find them jobs, they're working fewer hours and they're making less. So the female graduates for this year made $12.76 on average, and they worked 24.2 hours. The male graduates made $13.30 an hour and worked 25.4 hours on average.
And you might say, well, come on, it's only 55 cents or 54 cents or whatever it is. But we all know that adds up, right? That adds up, and it's not fair.
We have to do better. And it can't be accounted for just by considering autism or ASD. I hear that all the time. You know, people will say, well, that's because most of the folks who get diagnosed with autism are male. That doesn't even come close to accounting for this difference. All right, intern demographics. It's been almost exactly the same as it has in past years. We are doing a couple things in a couple areas. Joy Burris, one of our program specialists, is spent last year working with Tribal VR. She's going to be attending more conferences, reaching out, making sure that we're doing everything we can to include tribal youth in all of our initiatives. We're also going to be reaching out to work with Latino youth. That's what we're going to focus on this coming year.